The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor of the grand ballroom at the plaza, shards scattering like the fragments of my unraveling life. "How could you?" I screamed, my voice raw over the swell of Mendelssohn's Wedding March, every eye in the room snapping to me. My mother gasping, my father turning purple, and there, at the altar, Christopher's face draining of color as he gripped John's hand tighter. In that frozen heartbeat, I realized the secret I'd buried for years had clawed its way out, not in confession, but in catastrophe. My twin brother was marrying the man I'd loved in silence, and the whole damn world was about to know why it felt like betrayal carved from my own flesh. I never planned for it to end like this, under crystal chandeliers in the heart of Manhattan, with 300 guests whispering behind gloved hands. John and I were born 2 minutes apart in a dusty hospital in Des Moines, Iowa. Me first, the responsible one. Him the charmer who could talk his way out of anything. We looked so alike that even our mothers sometimes mixed us up in the laundry, tagging our clothes with Sharpie initials. A for Alex, J for John. Growing up in that Bible Belt suburb, where Sunday sermons hammered home that love was between a man and a woman, and anything else was a ticket to hellfire, we learned early to mirror each other. Share clothes, share stories, share the weight of Dad's expectations that we'd both join the family construction business, marry high school sweethearts, and pump out grandkids like clockwork. But mirrors crack. Mine started fracturing in high school, when I'd catch myself staring too long at the quarterback's sweat-slicked shoulders after gym class, my stomach twisting with a hunger I couldn't name. John, oblivious or maybe just better at pretending, dated cheerleaders and cracked jokes about scoring that made the guys slap his back. I laughed along, but inside, I was a ghost haunting my own skin. College was supposed to fix that. We both got partial scholarships to NYU, escaping the cornfields for the concrete jungle. New York hit us like a fever dream. Skyscrapers clawing at the sky, streets pulsing with lives that didn't fit the Iowa mold. John dove into finance classes and frat parties, while I majored in psychology, burying myself in textbooks about identity and repression, wondering if Freud had a chapter on twins who felt like strangers in their own reflections. That's where I met Christopher. It was a rainy October afternoon in Washington Square Park, the kind where the leaves stick to your shoes like regrets. I was sketching in my notebook, nothing fancy, just the archway's curve against the gray sky, when he plopped down on the bench, shaking water from his auburn curls like a golden retriever. "Mind if I critique?" he asked, his voice carrying that easy California drawl, all sun and sarcasm. He was a film student, lanky and sharp-featured, with hazel eyes that seemed to see through the bullshit. I handed him the sketch without a word, and he tilted his head, murmuring, "It's got longing. Like the arch is reaching for something it can't touch." We talked for hours, about Kubrick's use of light in The Shining, the ache of homesickness, how New York made you feel both invisible and exposed. By the time the rain stopped, we'd exchanged numbers, and I walked back to my dorm with a lightness in my chest I hadn't known since childhood. Our first real date was at a hole-in-the-wall falafel joint in the village, where the air smelled of cumin and possibility. He kissed me outside under a street lamp, tentative at first, then fierce, like he'd been holding back a storm. "I've been waiting for someone who gets it," he whispered against my lips. The hiding, the what-ifs. Christopher was out to his friends back in LA, but his conservative parents didn't know, and he carried that weight like a backpack full of bricks. We fell hard and fast. Late-night screenings at indie theaters, walks along the Hudson where he'd quote Whitman about the body electric, stolen weekends in his tiny Brooklyn walk-up where we'd cook pasta and pretend the world outside didn't exist. He made me feel seen, not as John's shadow, but as Alex, the guy who overthought everything, who laughed at bad puns, who dreamed of writing a book about fractured families. But secrets have a way of festering. John noticed first, of course. We'd always had that twin radar, the unspoken sync where one sneeze meant the other reached for tissues. "You're glowing, bro," he said one night over beers at our shared apartment off campus, his blue eyes, mirror images of mine, narrowing playfully. "Spill. New girl." I froze, the lies sticking in my throat like dry toast. "Yeah, something like that," I muttered, changing the subject to his latest hookup disaster. Guilt gnawed at me, but so did fear. Our parents called every Sunday, Dad grumbling about city temptations, Mom fretting over finding a nice girl to settle down with. Coming out felt like lighting a match in a powder keg, ruining not just me, but John too, by association. What if they blamed him for not watching out for his little brother? What if it shattered the fragile peace we'd built? Christmas break back in Des Moines was the breaking point. Snow blanketed the town like a lie, everything crisp and white while inside. The air crackled with unspoken rules. Christopher stayed in New York, citing finals. But really, it was to avoid the interrogation. I drove home alone, John's hand on my shoulder as we crossed the Iowa state line. "You okay, Alex? You've been spacey." I nodded, forcing a grin. That night, after eggnog and Dad's annual lecture on fiscal responsibility, Mom pulled me aside in the kitchen, her floral apron dusted with flour from pie crusts. "You've been so quiet, honey. Is it a girl? You can tell me." Her eyes, soft and hopeful, nearly undid me. I wanted to scream it. "I love a man, Mom, and it's tearing me apart," but the words lodged like ice. Instead, I hugged her and said, "Just school stress." The real explosion came on New Year's Eve. John and I were at a house party in Clive, the suburbs' attempt at revelry, with cheap beer and fireworks that lit the sky like accusations. I stepped out for air, phone buzzing with Christopher's text, "Miss you. Can't wait to ring in the new year with my favorite overthinker." My thumb hovered over reply when John stumbled out, flushed from shots. "Hey, twin, where's your mystery girl? Introduce me. I need wingman material." He slung an arm around me, and in a haze of alcohol and desperation, I cracked. "There is no girl, John. It's a guy? Christopher. We've been together 6 months." He pulled back, eyes wide, but not with shock, with something like recognition. "Dude, I knew something was up. Why didn't you say?" Relief flooded me, hot and unexpected. We sat on the frozen porch, breath fogging the air, and I spilled it all. The park bench, the kisses, the terror of our family's judgment. John listened, nodding, then punched my arm lightly. "You're my brother, Alex. Gay, straight, whatever, you're you. We'll figure it out." For the first time, I felt unburdened, like the twin bond could weather this. We clinked bottles, toasting to secrets shared, and I drove us home singing off-key to Springsteen, believing we'd conquered the worst. Back in New York, I told Christopher everything over takeout Thai in his apartment, the city lights twinkling like conspirators outside the window. He pulled me close, murmuring, "I'm proud of you, babe. This changes nothing and everything." We made love that night, slow and reverent, as if sealing a pact. But cracks spiderwebbed in the weeks that followed. John started hanging out with Christopher more, "For your sake," he said, joining us for movie nights or grabbing coffee. At first, it was sweet, the three of us laughing over Christopher's terrible impressions of our professors. But I'd catch John's gaze lingering on him a beat too long, or Christopher's hand brushing John's knee under the table in what I told myself was accident. Jealousy crept in like fog off the East River, irrational and choking. Was John curious? Compensating for his own buried feelings? Or was I paranoid, projecting my insecurities onto the one relationship that had always anchored me? One night, after a gallery opening where Christopher flirted shamelessly with an artist, harmless, I knew, but it stung, I confronted him. "You're pulling away," I accused, voice shaking in the dim light of our bedroom. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Alex, it's not that. Your brother's cool, and yeah, maybe I'm trying too hard to fit in. But I love you." We argued, words like shrapnel, my clinginess, his evasions, the pressure of my newfound openness clashing with his half-in-the-closet caution. "Maybe we need space," he said finally, the words landing like a gut punch. "To breathe." Space turned to silence. Texts went unanswered, calls to voicemail. John, ever the fixer, reached out to Christopher on my behalf. "He's hurting, man. Talk to him." And soon they were grabbing drinks to strategize. I spiraled, therapy sessions with a campus counselor unpacking the abandonment fears rooted in our dad's emotional distance. "You're not losing him," she said. "You're grieving a change." But grief felt like drowning. Spring break came, and I fled to Iowa alone, John staying in the city for an internship interview. Mom noticed my pallor immediately. "Breakup blues?" she asked gently over breakfast. I nodded, the half-truth bitter. Dad clapped my shoulder. Plenty of fish, son. Chin up. When I returned, the apartment felt haunted. John's key turned in the lock late one night, and he crashed on the couch, reeking of whiskey and regret. Talk to me, I demanded, flicking on the lamp. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, my eyes, and the story tumbled out. I went out with Chris tonight. Just to help, you know? But we kissed. It was a mistake, Alex. Booze, confusion. He feels awful. The room tilted. My twin, my confidant, lips on the man who'd mapped every inch of my soul. Why? I whispered, betrayal blooming like ink in water. John sobbed, I don't know. I've been questioning things too. Ever since you told me. It unlocked something. I'm sorry, bro. So sorry. I packed a bag that dawn, crashing at a friend's in Queens, the subway's rattle mirroring my fractured heart. Christopher called, voice breaking. It wasn't planned. John was hurting for you, and I messed up. But it's you I want. Lies, or half-truths. I couldn't tell anymore. The triangle we'd formed twisted into a noose. Weeks blurred into a haze of classes skipped, runs along the reservoir until my lungs burned, journals filled with rants against fate's cruelty. Why us? Why twins, doomed to echo each other's sins? Summer arrived with a vengeance, humid and unforgiving. John and I spoke in clipped texts, the twin telepathy severed. Christopher tried bridges, flowers left at my door, voicemails pleading for coffee, but pride walled me off. Then, in July, Mom called with news that upended everything. Dad's heart attack, mild but a wake-up call. Come home, she begged. Both of you. Family first. John flew back immediately. I followed a day later, the plane's descent over the flatlands feeling like surrender. Des Moines enveloped us in forced normalcy. Hospital vigils, potlucks with church ladies bearing casseroles. Dad, pale in his gown, gripped our hands. Proud of my boys. Don't let the city change you. Irony stung like antiseptic. John and I shared the old twin bedroom, bunk beds creaking under adult weight, the silence thick with unsaid apologies. One midnight, as cicadas droned outside, he whispered, I love you, Alex. Not like that, not with Chris. It was a fluke, a mirror of your pain. Forgive me. Tears pricked. I nodded into the dark. We're twins, John. Blood's thicker. We hugged, the old sink flickering back, fragile but real. Christopher showed up unannounced a week later, driving cross-country in his beat-up Subaru, claiming worry for Dad. Mom fussed over him like a prodigal son. He charmed Dad with stories of LA dreams. At night, by the backyard fire pit, he and I talked, really talked, for the first time in months. I panicked, he admitted, stars wheeling overhead. Your openness scared me because I wasn't there yet. And John, it was pity, stupidity. I choose you, Alex. Always. The kiss that followed was salt and spark, forgiveness tasting like second chances. We spent the summer rebuilding, road trips to the Badlands, where wind-sculpted rocks mirrored our eroded trust, lazy afternoons in the barn, sketching while he filmed character studies of me laughing at his jokes. By fall, we were stronger, the scar tissue adding depth. John dated a girl from his office, straight-laced and sweet, burying whatever questions he'd unearthed. I came out to Mom over coffee one crisp September morning, her hand trembling as she squeezed mine. I love you, son. That's all that matters. Dad grunted approval later, in his gruff way. As long as you're happy. New York welcomed us back with open arms, classes, castings for Christopher's short films, twin brunches where John teased us mercilessly but with warmth. But fate, that cruel director, had one more twist scripted. It started innocently enough, or so it seemed in retrospect. A group hike in the Catskills, Labor Day weekend, the three of us plus John's new girlfriend, Sarah, and a couple of her friends. The air was crisp, leaves turning fire-kissed, and Christopher's hand in mine felt like an anchor as we trudged up the trail. John led the pack, ever the adventurer, cracking jokes about bears mistaking us for picnic baskets. Watch out, Alex. Chris might eat you first, he quipped, winking. Laughter rippled, easy and light, the summer's wounds scabbed over. At the summit, overlooking valleys stitched with rivers, Christopher pulled me aside behind a boulder. This is us now, he said, his breath warm on my neck. No more hiding. We kissed with the wind whipping our hair, the world vast and indifferent below. It was the romantic peak I'd replay in memory, the raw beauty of vulnerability, two souls synced against the horizon. But as we descended, John's boot caught a root, twisting his ankle with a sickening pop. Chaos ensued. Sarah panicking, me fashioning a splint from branches, Christopher carrying him piggyback down the mile-long trail, sweat beading on his brow. In the ER, waiting for x-rays, John gripped my hand. Thanks, guys. Couldn't ask for better family. Gratitude swelled, but so did a flicker of unease. Christopher's attentiveness to John, the way he'd whispered encouragements, seemed intimate. We chalked it up to adrenaline. John recovered quickly, back to his desk job, but the dynamic shifted subtly. He and Christopher bonded over rehab sessions, gym runs, protein shakes, while I buried myself in a thesis on sibling rivalry and queer narratives, irony not lost. He's like the brother I never had, Christopher said one night, collapsing beside me on the couch after dropping John off. I nodded, swallowing the twinge. But doubts are weeds. They sprout in fertile soil. Late October, I found a text on Christopher's phone while he showered. Miss our talks. Thanks for listening. Jay harmless, right? Coffee chats about John's dating woes. Yet it gnawed, echoing that porch confession in Iowa. Thanksgiving loomed, our first as an official couple. Mom insisted on hosting. The farmhouse expanded with a leaf in the dining table for new friends. Christopher flew in early, helping Dad with the turkey brine, his easy charm disarming even the old man's skepticism. John arrived with Sarah, all coupled up bliss, but I caught him watching Christopher across the table, subtle, but there, like a shadow in sunlight. After pie, as we cleared dishes, Mom pulled Christopher into a hug. You're good for my Alex. Welcome to the family. His eyes met mine, shining, and for a moment, the world righted. The fracture came in December, amid twinkling lights and Salvation Army bells. I was swamped with finals. Christopher had a film festival submission deadline. John, post-breakup with Sarah, she's great, but not it, he'd said vaguely. Started crashing at our place more, just for movie marathons. One blizzardy night, I came home early from the library to find them on the couch, heads bent over Christopher's laptop, laughing at outtakes. Empty pizza boxes, a half-drunk six-pack. Join us, John asked, face flushed. I did, but the air hummed with exclusion, like I'd interrupted a private world. The fight erupted 2 weeks before Christmas. I'd confronted Christopher about the late nights. Am I imagining this? Or are you too close? And he exploded. Jesus, Alex, it's your brother. Paranoia much? After everything, you still don't trust me? Words flew. My insecurities, his defensiveness, John's name a weapon between us. Maybe if you weren't so busy playing therapist to him, we'd have time for us, I shot back. He stormed out, slamming the door, and I collapsed against it, sobs racking me. John texted later, heard the yelling. Want to talk? I didn't reply. Pride, that Midwestern curse, kept me silent. Christmas Eve in Des Moines was a masterclass in facade. Snow fell soft as secrets. The living room glowed with a tree strung in heirloom ornaments. Mom bustled with mulled cider. Dad carved ham with ritual precision. John and I exchanged gifts, leather journals, inside joke. Our twin ritual intact despite the rift. Christopher arrived last, bearing pies from a Brooklyn bakery, his smile strained but present. Under the mistletoe, he kissed me chastely, whispering, "We'll fix this." Dinner was torture. Small talk about weather, work, anything but the elephant in the reindeer sweater. As carols played, John raised a toast. To family, blood, and chosen. Eyes locked across the table, a silent plea for truce. But truces crack under pressure. New Year's, back in the city, Christopher and I attempted reconciliation. A quiet dinner at our falafel spot, the one that started it all. I love you, he said, falafel crumbling in his fingers. John's just a friend. Like you are to Sarah. I wanted to believe him, leaned in for the kiss that sealed it. January thawed the ice. We planned a spring trip to Big Sur, dreams of coastal drives and cliffside confessions. John started dating again, a guy this time, cautiously out to us, not the world, vowing, "Your turn inspired me, bro." Pride swelled. Maybe we'd all emerge whole. February brought the bomb. I was at a psych conference in Boston when Christopher called, voice muffled. Come home. Now. My heart plummeted. The train ride back was agony, scenarios spinning, affair confirmed, terminal illness, alien invasion. What greeted me wasn't catastrophe, but confusion. John, pacing our living room, eyes red-rimmed. Christopher on the couch, head in hands. What's going on? I demanded, bag thudding to the floor. They spoke in tandem, haltingly. A month ago, John confessed his feelings to Christopher. Not fleeting, but deep, unearthed by the hike, the rehab, the nights when I was absent. I fought it, John said, voice breaking. You're my brother. But he felt it too. Christopher nodded miserably. It started as comfort, for both of us. Your doubts made me question if we were solid. And John, he's you, but without the walls. Betrayal hit like vertigo, the room spinning. My twin and my love, entangled in a mirror of my own desires. How long? I choked. Since the hike, John admitted. But we stopped when you came back. Until last week. Last week, my conference trip. The pieces slotted. Texts, late nights, the sudden silences. Rage boiled, hot, and biblical. Get out, I snarled at Christopher. To John, both of you. They left, tails tucked, promises of space ringing hollow. Alone, I trashed the apartment, shattering mugs, shredding photos, until exhaustion claimed me on the floor amid the wreckage. The fallout was seismic. Mom called the next day, voice quavering. John told me. Oh, Alex. Turns out, he'd confessed to her too, seeking absolution. Dad's silence spoke volumes, disappointment in triplicate. Friends picked sides, some Christopher's, decrying my clinginess, others John's, calling it organic. I quit therapy, too raw for dissection, and wandered the city like a specter. Bryant Park benches, empty at dawn, the High Lines weeds mocking my barren heart. March dragged, a gray slog of rain and regret. John emailed apologies, long and lacerating. I saw how he looked at you and wanted that gaze for myself. It's sick, I know, twin envy twisted wrong. Forgive? Christopher showed up at my door once, soaked and desperate. It was a lapse. I choose you. I slammed it, but doubt crept. Had I pushed him away? Was our love too fragile for scrutiny? April bloomed cruelly, cherry blossoms jeering. A letter from Mom arrived, handwritten on lavender stationery. Families bend, Alex, but they don't break if rooted in love. Talk to them. Heal. Her words pierced. I missed the mess of us. The twin laughter, Christopher's quirky affections. One tentative coffee with John led to beers, then a hike. Not Catskills, but Central Park, where we unpacked the pathology. Freud would have a field day, I joked weakly. He nodded. I came out to Dad. He hugged me. Awkward as hell, but real. Progress, bittersweet. Christopher was harder. We met at the park bench, our origin point, rain pattering like judgment. I can't, he said finally, after hours of circling. Not after hurting you like that. John and I, it's not just a mistake. It's something. The words eviscerated. My ex, choosing my twin, the ultimate echo, a love triangle collapsed into singularity. Why him? I begged. Because he's uncomplicated. You and I, we're storms. He left me there, dusk falling, the archway's shadow swallowing my sobs. Summer scorched the wounds shut. John and Christopher went public, discreetly, a quiet dinner with Mom and Dad, who swallowed shock for unity. I attended, a ghost at the feast, toasting with numb lips. Happy for you. I lied, the words ash. They moved in together, a brownstone in Brooklyn, while I sublet a studio in Harlem, walls echoing with solitude. Work saved me, a grad school acceptance, publishing a paper on queer kinship that poured my pain into prose. Friends rallied, blind dates fizzling but reminding me of possibility. Yet envy festered, a low hum. John's Instagram glowed, Christopher's arm around him at baseball games, candlelit anniversaries. My mirror image, living my dream. Therapy resumed, unpacking the narcissism, why not me, and surfacing truths I'd hidden so long. Love became a battlefield. Fall leaves turned, and with them, resolve. I texted John, talk? No drama. We met at a diner, formica tables scarred like our history. It kills me, I admitted. Seeing you too. It's like losing both. He teared up. We never met. I mean, Chris loves you still in a way. But this fits. Can we be brothers again? Forgiveness isn't lightning, it's erosion. We rebuilt slowly, weekly calls, game nights with buffers. Christopher kept distance, respectful nods at holidays. Mom mediated, her humanism a balm. Love's not zero-sum, boys. Dad, in rare vulnerability, shared his own youth. A crush on a farmhand, buried for duty. Regrets heavier than shame, he said. Revelations rippled, humanizing the icons. Winter whispered redemption. Christmas 2024, the farmhouse alight. John and Christopher arrived hand in hand, rings glinting, engaged, announced with champagne flutes. Gasps, then cheers, Mom's eyes misty. I stood, throat tight, and raised my glass. To love, in all its messy forms. Later, by the fire, John pulled me aside. You okay? I nodded, meaning it. Proud of you. Both. The hug was fierce, twin souls realigning. But undercurrents churned. Whispers from extended family. Scandalous, that twin switch. Stung, fueling my isolation. A new guy, Ethan, entered via a book club. Kind eyes, no baggage, but trust lagged. One night, post-argument with him over nothing, I drove to Brooklyn. Pounding on their door at 2 a.m. Christopher answered, tousled in pajamas, John behind him. What the hell, Alex? I hate you, I spat. For taking him. For making me the villain in my own story. They pulled me inside. No judgment, just tea and tissues. Dawn broke with confessions. Christopher's guilt, John's fear of losing me forever. We want you in our lives, John said. Not as pity, as family. That vulnerability cracked the dam. We cried, laughed, planned a joint therapy session, unconventional, but American in its stubborn hope. Spring 2025 brought clarity. I ended things with Ethan amicably, focusing on self, yoga in the park, a memoir draft titled Echoes. John and Christopher set a wedding date. June, the plaza, neutral ground. As invitations arrived, engraved with gold script, dread coiled. Could I stand there, best man to my own ghost? Mom sensed it, visiting with pie. You'll go because you love him, she said of John. And because healing's showing up. She was right. Rehearsal dinner, a rooftop affair with skyline views, tested me. Toasts lauding their fated love, while I nursed wine and wounds. Christopher cornered me after. You're braver than us, Alex. Always were. His hand on my arm lingered, platonic now, but charged with history. The wedding morn dawned brutal, blue skies mocking my storm. I dressed in the hotel suite, tux crisp, tie choking. John, mirror image in identical suit, clapped my shoulder. Love you, bro. Vows echoed in the ballroom. Christopher's voice steady, John's trembling with joy. Rings exchanged, kiss sealing it. Applause thundered. I clapped too, tears blurring. Then the flute shattered. It was me, hands slipping in fury, grief erupting. How could you? Not at them, but at the farce, the years of secrets, the love I'd lost to its double. Guests froze. Mom fainted into Dad's arms. Security hovered, but John rushed forward. Alex, wait. Christopher followed, eyes pleading. I fled to the park across Fifth Avenue, collapsing on our bench, sobs heaving. Footsteps. Them, disheveled in tuxes, no entourage. Let me explain, John begged. But I cut him off. No. The truth. Did you plan this? From the start. Silence, damning. Christopher knelt. Not planned, but inevitable. You brought us together. Your courage sparked it all. Rage crested, then crashed. I hate that I love you both still, I whispered. They enveloped me. John's arm, Christopher's hand. A triad. Broken but binding. We're family, John murmured. Always. The aftermath unfolded like a slow-motion car wreck. Every frame etched in humiliation and hushed phone calls. Mom recovered in a chaise lounge, fanning herself with the program that now read like a bad joke. John and Christopher, forever entwined. Dad's face was thunder, but he cornered me in the lobby later, voice low. Son, whatever demons you're wrestling, don't let him win. We're Andersons, we endure. His hand on my shoulder, calloused from years of blueprints and burdens, was the closest he'd come to therapy. I nodded, numb, as guests milled like awkward extras in an indie drama. John and Christopher postponed a reception, shipping cake boxes to the park for a family picnic. Their optimism, infuriatingly American, turned crisis into charcuterie board. I almost bolted, but Ethan's text pinged. Heard about the wedding. You okay? Coffee. No pity, just presence. It grounded me enough to stay. Under the arches, amid wilting roses and sympathetic stares, we ate in silence at first. Then John spoke, fork midway to mouth. That was epic, Alex. Rock bottom, but honest. Christopher chuckled softly. Yeah, like the end of When Harry Met Sally, but with more glass. Laughter bubbled, involuntary, cracking the ice. We talked, not accusations, but autopsies. How the twin bond, once sanctuary, became sabotage. How Christopher's indecision mirrored our family's legacy of half-truths. I came out to chase authenticity, I said, picking at Brie. But I dragged you both into my mess. John shook his head. Nah, you freed us. I was bi-curious forever, scared shitless. Seeing you with Chris? It was permission. Christopher nodded. And me. I loved your intensity, Alex. But John's steadiness. It balanced what we lacked. Bittersweet wisdom, served with prosciutto. Mom joined, arm in arm with Dad, declaring, weddings are for joy, not drama. Let's dance. A portable speaker blared Motown. Sarah, John's ex, even showed, twirling with abandon. Strangers gawked from benches, but in that bubble, we reclaimed the day, not perfect, but profoundly human. As dusk fell, John pulled me aside. Be my best man. For real this time. I hesitated, then grinned. Only if I don't have to catch the bouquet. The months to the rescheduled wedding, September now, post-summer heat, were a masterclass in uneasy alliance. I moved back in with them temporarily, sublet savings dwindling, the brownstone a pressure cooker of politeness. Mornings, Christopher brewing coffee, humming show tunes, John scrolling wedding Pinterest, vetoing tacky favors. Nights, me on the pull-out, earbuds in, drowning in podcasts about resilience. Tension simmered, stolen glances when they kissed, my chest tightening like a vice. But we navigated with rules. No PDA in shared spaces, weekly check-ins over tacos. Therapy became our triad ritual, a no-frills office in Midtown where Dr. Lena, a sharp-witted Latina with zero tolerance for bullshit, unpacked the psychosexual minefield. Twins and love triangles. Freud's wet dream, she quipped first session. We laughed, then dove deep. John's mirror envy, craving what he saw in me. Christopher's savior complex, drawn to fixing fractured men. My abandonment schema, rooted in Dad's emotional droughts. Revelations landed like soft punches. Christopher admitted using John as a safe harbor during our rough patches. John confessed fabricating the hike mistake to test boundaries. I wanted you to fight for him, he said sheepishly. Stupid twin logic. I fired back. And I wanted you to see me, not compete. Catharsis flowed, tears and all, forging a fragile truce. Outside sessions, life intruded. John's promotion to junior partner, champagne toasts where his hand lingered on Christopher's waist, my memoir agent interest, late nights typing feverishly. Ethan faded to friend zone, but a barista named Riley, tattooed barista with a poet's soul, sparked tentative sparks. Coffee turned to walks, his hand brushing mine without the weight of history. Family dynamics evolved too. Iowa visits normalized queerness. Mom's book club reading Call Me By Your Name, Dad awkwardly asking about that Stonewall thing on PBS. Extended kin grumbled. Uncle Ray's emails railing about unnatural choices, but Mom's replies, polite steel, shut them down. My sons are happy. End of story. Her humanism, forged in church potlucks and quiet faith, shamed my cynicism. Yet controversy brewed beyond borders. A cousin leaked the shattered flute, tale to a Des Moines gossip rag, twisted into twin gay scandal rocks wedding. Online trolls piled on, Reddit threads dissecting incest vibes, conservative blogs decrying LGBT agenda infiltrating Heartland. Hate mail clogged my inbox. Freak show. Repent. John and Christopher fielded worse, doxed with slurs, but rallied with a joint op-ed in The Atlantic. Twins, love, and the lies we tell ourselves. It went viral. TED Talk offers flooding. I contributed anonymously, my byline too raw, but pride swelled. Our pain, politicized into purpose. Summer solstice marked a pivot. Riley and I kissed under fireworks at a Pride block party, rainbow flags whipping like freedom's won. John's bachelor party, Vegas light in Atlantic City, devolved into truths over blackjack. I almost called it off, he admitted, chips clattering. Guilt over you. Christopher, 3 beers in, added, me too. But then I realized, love isn't theft. It's multiplication. We hugged, sloppy and sincere, toasting to multiples. September's wedding dawned golden, the plaza redeemed. I stood best man, tux tailored sharp, notes for the toast laminated against sweat. Vows echoed purer this time, John's voice steady, Christopher's laced with awe. As they kissed, confetti swirling, I felt not loss, but launch. Love's relay, past not stolen. My speech nailed it. John and Chris, you remind us that family isn't blood or possession. It's choosing, daily, to hold space for each other's light, even when it blinds. Laughter, applause, Mom dabbed tears, Dad nodded gruff approval. Reception swirled. First dance to At Last, Etta James crooning redemption. Riley, my +1, squeezed my hand under the table, his whisper, you're glowing, a promise. But high tide pulls undercurrents. Midway through cake cutting, a waiter delivered a note to John. Meet me. Truth you need. A friend. He paled, excusing himself. Christopher followed, concern etching his brow. I tailed discreetly, twin instinct overriding etiquette. In a side alcove, shadows danced. The friend was Sarah, John's ex, eyes blazing. You lied, she hissed. About us breaking because of timing. It was him, nodding at Christopher, wasn't it? The affair. John's face crumpled. Sarah, please, not here. She thrust photos, grainy shots from the hike, arms linked too intimately. A motel receipt from that business trip in July. I pieced it together. For closure. But this? Marrying your brother's ex? It's cruel. Time fractured. Christopher stammered. It wasn't. But John silenced him, turning to me, horror dawning. Alex. We said it started later. Betrayal reloaded, sharper. The affair predated the confession, months of deception, a calculated courtship while I mourned in ignorance. Rage propelled me forward. You bastards, I snarled, voice echoing off velvet drapes. Sarah gasped, fleeing, guests stirred, sensing storm. John grabbed my arm. Hear us out. I wrenched free, storming the ballroom, microphone in hand mid-toast redux. Ladies and gentlemen, I boomed, wine glass aloft. A toast to lies beautifully told. To twins who steal hearts and husbands who play both sides. Chaos erupted. Gasps, silverware clattering, Mom rising white-faced. Security materialized. I hurled the glass, crimson arcing like accusation, before barreling out into the night. Streets blurred, taxis honking judgment. I ended up at the park bench. Rain starting, our romantic genesis now farce. Riley called. Where are you? But I silenced it, sobs mingling with downpour. Footsteps. John and Christopher, soaked and desperate. It was real from the start. Christopher pleaded, kneeling in mud. But we hid to protect you. From the pain, from yourself. John added, broken. I thought space would heal us all. God, Alex, I'm so sorry. Lightning cracked, illuminating fractures. Protect me, or absolve yourselves. I warred. Truths tumbled. The hike kiss was an accident. Planned, a test run, while I packed for Iowa. Summer comfort was courtship. Emails I'd glimpsed as bro advice. The op-ed? Half-truths, glossing betrayal for clicks. Fury crested. Your monsters in matching tuxes. I shoved past, hailing a cab to Harlem, locks changed by dawn. Isolation was a jealous lover, wrapping me in quilts of resentment that autumn. The brownstone became verboten. John's texts, please, talk, went unread. Christopher's voicemails deleted mid-plea. Mom flew up, bearing Iowa comfort food and lectures. Running fixes nothing, Alex. Face it. We walked the reservoir, leaves crunching like crushed illusions. They hurt you, she acknowledged, arm-linked. But hate's a chain. What do you want, free or fettered? Her question lingered, a seed in barren soil. Work anchored. Memoir sales ticked up, readings in Brooklyn bookstores where audiences nodded at lines about love's doppelganger. Riley stuck, patient as tides. Dinners debating Kerouac. Nights where touch healed without claiming. You're not broken, he'd murmur post-nightmare, fingers tracing my jaw. Just bent. Intimacy bloomed slow, a garden from ash, but trust? That was the holy grail. November brought reckoning. Dad's email. Terse. Your brother's a mess. Come home. Man's talk. Thanksgiving in Des Moines was stripped down. No frills, just turkey and tension. John waited on the porch, gaunt in flannel, Christopher absent, giving space. We hugged awkward, like strangers in familiar skin. I fucked up, he started, voice gravel. Over pie in the den, truths unspooled. The affair's genesis in guilt. John's bisexuality a long shadow. Christopher's fear of monogamy's cage. We thought ending it clean would spare you, John said. But secret's poison. I unloaded too. The paranoia I'd ignored. The coming out that cracked us open. You didn't steal him, I conceded. I pushed him away first. Catharsis, not absolution. Dad joined late. Bourbon in hand. Men make mistakes. Real ones own him. His nod to John, forgiveness modeled, chipped my walls. We parted tentative, a group text chain revived. Coffee Saturday? Rebuilding was Sisyphean. Joint therapy resumed. Dr. Lena arching brows at the sequel. Betrayal's not binary, she prodded. Sessions unearthed gems. Christopher's childhood divorce. Breeding commitment phobia. John's twin guilt. Always second best. I shared my schema. Fear of erasure, twinship's eclipse. Progress measured in smalls. Movie nights sans subtext. John's apology baked into brownies. Controversy lingered, a low boil. The Atlantic piece retracted amid backlash. Ethical lapses cited. Online wars raged. Twin betrayal trending briefly. We lawyered up, statements unified. Private pain, public lesson. It humanized us. Podcast inviting the trio for raw chats on queer kinship. John's firm promoted him anyway. Christopher's film won at Tribeca, dedication oblique, for fractured families. Winter thawed egos. Christmas redux. The farmhouse festive, Christopher included, his pie a peace offering. Toasts skirted scars, to new chapters, and when John and he exchanged anniversary gifts, vows renewed quietly. I didn't flinch. Riley met them, charm bridging gaps. Tough crowd, he joked post-dinner. But worth it. Spring 2026 whispered closure. Riley and I weekend in the Berkshires, cabin quiet, where he proposed. Not ring, but words, build with me. Yes came easy, a vow to self first. John's news dropped casual over brunch. Baby talk. Surrogate lined up. Fatherhood, the ultimate mirror. Joy tinged envy, but genuine. Uncle Alex? He teased. I grinned. Only if I get veto on names. Climax crested unexpected, Memorial Day weekend. A family barbecue in Iowa, grills smoking, kids, cousins, shrieking. Laughter flowed, but Dad pulled me aside by the shed, face ashen. Something I buried, he rasped, handing a faded photo. Him, young, arm around a farm boy, eyes alight. You're coming out. Stirred ghosts. Loved him, lost him to war. Never told a soul. Tears tracked his weathered cheeks. Don't repeat my cage, son. Revelation rippled. Our lineage, a chain of silenced loves. I hugged him fierce, the twin bond extending patriarch ward. That night, fireflies dancing, we gathered, John, Christopher, Mom, Riley. Truth circle, Dad's story first, then ours woven in. We're echoes, I said, but we choose the song. Applause? No. Embraces, the humanistic heart of us. Years blur now. John and Christopher's twins arrived squalling, dark-haired mini-MES. I coached their t-ball, Riley beside me, our adopted daughter toddling at home. Betrayals fade to backstory, the shattered flute a punchline at reunions. Love, it turns out, isn't zero-sum. It's infinite, if you let it multiply. We endure, American as apple pie and hard truths, flawed, fierce, forever choosing kin over cracks. And in quiet moments, that park bench calls, romance reborn, not in possession, but presence. Here's to us. Came out, crashed hard, rose whole.